Living in a quiet, neat neighborhood seemed like a dream come true for the homeowner. The houses were clean, the lawns were well kept, and everyone seemed to follow the rules. At first, it felt like the perfect place to settle down, to enjoy the calm and order that came with an organized community. But the dream started to crack the moment the homeowner ran into the HOA president, a woman who seemed to take pride in enforcing every little rule to the letter. People in the community whispered about her, calling her Karen behind her back because of her strict and sometimes unreasonable behavior. To the homeowner, she seemed friendly at first, always smiling during neighborhood meetings, but it didn't take long for the true side of her to appear. The first incident was small, almost laughable, but it set the tone for everything that followed. The homeowner had parked a bicycle in front of their garage, thinking it was harmless. The next day, a notice appeared on the door, stern and official, saying the bicycle was violating community rules and needed to be removed immediately. It seemed trivial, but the tone of the notice made it clear that the HOA wanted compliance without question. The homeowner felt a flicker of frustration, but tried to shrug it off. After all, it was just a minor thing. However, a feeling of unease had already begun to grow. A week later, the homeowner found another notice, this time about a bush in the front yard that was apparently too tall. The homeowner remembered carefully trimming the plants the week before, but the HOA claimed it wasn't enough. It wasn't just the notices, it was the way they were delivered, full of threats of fines and penalties. It made the homeowner feel cornered, like no matter what they did, it would never be enough. The sense of frustration turned into something heavier, a growing tension that lingered in every interaction with the HOA. One afternoon, Karen appeared at the house herself. She walked up the driveway with a clipboard, her expression polite but firm. She spoke in a tone that was meant to be friendly but carried an undeniable edge of authority. She criticized the way the homeowner had painted the fence, saying it was not in line with the community standards. She mentioned the minor violations again, emphasizing that repeated offenses could lead to serious consequences. The homeowner tried to explain, tried to show that everything was under control, but Karen was unyielding. Every word she spoke seemed calculated to assert dominance, to remind the homeowner that she held the power in the neighborhood. The visit left the homeowner feeling both embarrassed and angry. It wasn't just about the rules, it was about the way they were enforced. It felt personal, like an invasion of privacy and autonomy. The homeowner began to notice that other residents who once seemed friendly now avoided interactions with Karen out of fear. The streets that once felt welcoming now seemed tense. The homeowner realized that the HOA wasn't just about maintaining order, it was about control. The feeling of helplessness began to grow, a quiet weight that settled in the chest. Despite the growing frustration, the homeowner tried to stay calm. They attended the next HOA meeting, hoping to find a way to discuss the issues openly, but the meeting only confirmed what had been growing in the homeowner's mind. Karen dominated the conversation, speaking over anyone who disagreed, dismissing concerns with a wave of her hand. The homeowner saw how she manipulated the rules to suit her own authority, and it became clear that confronting her directly would be difficult, if not impossible. The sense of being trapped in a system that was supposed to protect the community became more real with every passing day. The tension at home began to rise. Every time the homeowner received another notice, it felt like a personal attack, a reminder that they were under constant scrutiny. Friends who came over started noticing the stress, seeing the worry in the homeowner's eyes. The neighborhood that once felt like a safe space now felt like a cage. The homeowner tried to follow every rule, trimming bushes, moving bicycles, painting fences exactly as required, but nothing seemed to satisfy the HOA. Each minor victory was quickly overshadowed by another complaint. The homeowner started keeping a record of every notice, every conversation, just to protect themselves from future accusations. Then came the moment that changed everything. The homeowner returned from work one evening to find the gate to their community locked. A notice posted declaring that access had been restricted due to violations of HOA rules. It was shocking. The homeowner had always followed the rules as best they could, and now without warning they couldn't even enter their own home freely. The feeling of helplessness escalated into anger and disbelief. The streets felt empty and hostile as neighbors peeked from their windows, some sympathetic, others too scared to intervene. The homeowner tried calling the HOA, hoping to resolve the situation peacefully. The calls were polite on the surface but dismissive in substance. Karen's voice came through the phone, calm and unyielding, reiterating the violations and insisting that the gate would remain locked until the homeowner complied with additional, previously unmentioned demands. The homeowner felt a mix of fear and determination. Fear, because they couldn't access their home easily. Determination, because they realized that the system had reached a point where it no longer served fairness but served control. Over the next few days, the homeowner began to observe the gate, watching the flow of people in the neighborhood. Everyone seemed to comply without question, and the power that Karen held over the residents became clear. It wasn't just about the rules, it was about authority and submission. The homeowner realized that to regain control of their own life, they would have to think differently, to find a way to protect themselves from the arbitrary power of the HOA. The experience sparked a quiet resolve, a decision to stand up and reclaim what was rightfully theirs. Friends and family offered advice, some suggesting legal action, others suggesting compromise. But the homeowner knew that any approach had to be smart, deliberate, and strategic. This wasn't a simple argument over a bush or a bicycle. It was a struggle over autonomy and respect. The homeowner spent long nights researching HOA policies, property rights, and past cases where residents had fought back. Each discovery strengthened their confidence, giving them a sense that, despite the odds, there was a path forward. As days turned into weeks, the homeowner's frustration transformed into a plan. The locked gate was no longer just a barrier. It was a symbol of everything that had been wrong in their community. Every glance at it reminded the homeowner of the need to reclaim control. The anger they had felt became energy. The helplessness transformed into determination. What began as a dream of quiet suburban life had become a fight for fairness, and the homeowner was ready to take the first step toward regaining their freedom and standing up against unreasonable authority. This moment marked the beginning of a journey. The homeowner knew that facing Karen and the HOA would not be easy, but for the first time, they understood the power of preparation, knowledge, and self-belief. The quiet, tense mornings, the notes on doors, the unfair warnings, they had all led to this point. The homeowner was ready to take back control, not with anger alone, but with strategy, courage, and a clear sense of purpose. It was the start of a story that would not only challenge the HOA's authority, but also change the homeowner's life forever. The locked gate made every day feel like a battle. The homeowner had never imagined that a place meant to be peaceful and safe could turn into such a stressful environment. Every morning, walking up to the gate felt heavier than the last, a symbol of frustration and injustice. Neighbors passed by, some offering sympathetic glances, while others avoided eye contact, afraid of angering the HOA. The homeowner felt isolated, yet more determined to find a way to resolve the situation. It was no longer just about following rules or keeping peace. It was about reclaiming a sense of control over their own life. Life became a series of challenges. Simple routines like checking the mailbox or taking out the trash now involved careful planning and sometimes awkward negotiations with security guards or other residents who had keys to the gate. Each trip felt like a reminder of the HOA's power and how easily they could make life difficult. It was exhausting, both physically and emotionally. The homeowner began keeping a journal, documenting every incident, every interaction, and every letter from the HOA. Writing it down helped, at least a little, because it made the chaos feel more manageable, something tangible rather than a constant, invisible pressure. The homeowner also started noticing how this situation affected the neighbors. Some had quietly faced similar restrictions in the past, while others lived in fear of attracting Karen's attention. Conversations over fences or during casual walks in the neighborhood were filled with subtle complaints and careful phrasing to avoid being noticed. The homeowner realized that this wasn't just a personal problem. It was a community-wide issue. The gate was more than a locked entrance. It was a symbol of control, fear, and intimidation. The homeowner began to feel a sense of responsibility, not just for themselves, but for others who might be silently struggling under the same oppressive rules. One afternoon, the homeowner decided to confront the situation head-on. They approached Karen in person, hoping to find a solution, to appeal to reason. Karen met them at the gate, her posture firm, her clipboard in hand. The conversation started politely, with the homeowner explaining their perspective, showing evidence of compliance with all previously cited violations. But Karen remained unyielding, repeating the same rules and insisting that until further action was taken, the gate would remain locked. The homeowner felt frustration mounting, but instead of giving up, they decided to listen carefully, to understand exactly what Karen wanted and what she thought she could demand. The homeowner left the gate that day feeling a mix of anger and clarity. Karen had made it clear that she had the upper hand under the current system, and any solution had to be strategic. They realized that confrontation alone wouldn't work. They needed a plan that considered the legal, procedural, and practical aspects of the HOA's power. The feeling of being trapped was intense, but it also sparked creativity and determination. The homeowner started researching property rights, HOA regulations, and past cases where residents had fought similar battles. Each piece of information provided insight and hope. They began to see that even though the gate was physically locked, it might not be as absolute as it seemed. Every day at the locked gate became an opportunity for observation. The homeowner watched the flow of people, noting who had keys, how often security checked in, and how quickly complaints were acted upon. This careful observation revealed patterns, weaknesses, and potential ways to regain control. They took notes, drew diagrams, and even mapped out alternative entrances, considering every detail. The homeowner's frustration slowly transformed into determination, a quiet but steady resolve to find a solution that would end the constant intimidation once and for all. Meanwhile, friends and family tried to offer support. They listened patiently to the homeowner's recounting of incidents, offered advice, and even suggested legal help. But the homeowner knew that a reactionary approach wouldn't be enough. This was not about angering the HOA or creating more conflict. It was about understanding the rules, recognizing leverage points, and taking action in a way that would lead to a permanent solution. The support of loved ones was comforting, but the burden of planning and execution rested entirely on the homeowner's shoulders. The emotional toll was significant. Nights were often sleepless, filled with worries about what the HOA might do next. The homeowner feared further restrictions, fines, or even legal threats. Every knock on the door, every note left on the mailbox, felt like a test of patience and resilience. Yet within this pressure, the homeowner discovered a strength they hadn't realized they possessed. The situation demanded focus, strategy, and courage, and slowly these qualities became more pronounced. The homeowner began to believe that with enough knowledge and planning, the power of the locked gate could be challenged. During this time, the homeowner also began speaking quietly with other residents. Some had experienced similar restrictions and shared stories of minor victories, clever workarounds, and lessons learned from confrontations with the HOA. These conversations were cautiously held, always careful not to be overheard by anyone who might report back to Karen. They provided valuable insights, showing the homeowner that while the situation was difficult, it wasn't insurmountable. Knowledge became a form of power, a key to understanding how to navigate the rigid structure of the HOA without making the same mistakes that could lead to penalties or deeper restrictions. Weeks turned into months, and the locked gate remained a constant reminder of the imbalance of power. But the homeowner's perspective had shifted. What initially felt like a trap now felt like a challenge to be solved. They knew that patience, observation, and preparation were essential. The homeowner spent hours each day analyzing notices, rereading HOA rules, and imagining scenarios where the locked gate could become something they controlled, rather than something that controlled them. Every interaction, every notice, every glance at the gate became part of a larger puzzle, and slowly, the homeowner began piecing it together. The homeowner also paid close attention to Karen's behavior. They noticed patterns in her interactions, times when she was more likely to be flexible or distracted, and the subtle ways she enforced her authority. These observations helped the homeowner understand that Karen's power, while intimidating, had limits. Understanding those limits became crucial. It wasn't just about following the rules. It was about knowing when and how to act within and around them. Each realization brought a sense of empowerment, slowly replacing fear with calculated confidence. In addition to strategy, the homeowner focused on mental strength. They practiced staying calm in stressful situations, speaking clearly without anger, and keeping detailed records of every communication. This approach wasn't just practical, it was essential. Every note, every phone call, and every interaction could potentially be used to support a case or challenge an unfair action. The homeowner knew that preparation and patience were as important as courage in this situation. The locked gate had forced them to develop qualities they might never have discovered otherwise. Resilience, resourcefulness, and determination. Despite the stress, the homeowner found small moments of hope. Occasionally, neighbors would nod in encouragement, or a security guard would offer a sympathetic comment. These moments reminded the homeowner that they weren't completely alone. Community support, even if subtle, became a source of strength. It reinforced the idea that standing up to an unfair situation was not just about personal victory, but about protecting fairness and dignity for everyone in the neighborhood. Finally, after months of frustration, observation, and careful planning, the homeowner began formulating a concrete plan of action. They had gathered enough information about the HOA's rules, Karen's behavior, and the community's layout to know that the locked gate, while intimidating, could be challenged. The homeowner realized that success required more than anger. It required a combination of legal understanding, strategic thinking, and precise action. The locked gate was no longer just a barrier. It was a challenge, a test of ingenuity and perseverance. Every day at the gate was still difficult, but the homeowner approached it with a new mindset. What had begun as fear and frustration had transformed into strategy and determination. The locked gate, once a symbol of helplessness, was slowly becoming a puzzle to solve. The homeowner knew that the next steps would require courage, careful planning, and perhaps even a little creativity. But for the first time, they felt ready. They were no longer just a resident trapped by rules. They were someone preparing to reclaim their freedom, step by step, with clear purpose and unwavering resolve. After weeks of careful observation and research, the homeowner realized that simply following the HOA rules would not solve the problem. The locked gate was a symbol of unfair control, and regaining access required more than compliance. It required a smart plan. They spent hours reviewing property records, HOA policies, and community rules, looking for a way to turn the situation around. Each document, each regulation was a piece of the puzzle, and slowly, the homeowner began to see opportunities that had not been obvious before. One evening, while reviewing the property deed and HOA agreements, the homeowner discovered an important detail. The HOA did not actually own the gate. It had been installed by a contractor years earlier, and the HOA only managed its operation. This meant that ownership was separate from enforcement, and in theory it could be purchased. This discovery sparked a new determination. The locked gate was no longer a permanent barrier. It was a challenge that could be overcome. The homeowner felt a surge of hope and a renewed sense of purpose. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time they saw a concrete way forward. The first step was to gather more information about the gate and the company that installed it. The homeowner began making calls, speaking with contractors, and asking questions about ownership, maintenance contracts, and purchase options. Every conversation provided new insights, from technical details about the gate's operation to potential legal requirements for ownership transfer. The homeowner kept detailed notes, carefully documenting each step. They were learning not just about the gate, but about how knowledge and preparation could shift power. The process was time-consuming, but the homeowner approached it with patience, knowing that a well-thought-out plan would be far more effective than a hasty action. At the same time, the homeowner reflected on the community's dynamics. Observing Karen's behavior over the past months revealed patterns that could be important for future actions. Karen thrived on authority and control, but she also had weaknesses. She was meticulous but predictable, and she relied on the fear of others to maintain her power. The homeowner began to see that these patterns could be used strategically. By combining knowledge of the gate's ownership with an understanding of Karen's tendencies, they could create a plan that was both legal and effective, minimizing risk while maximizing impact. The homeowner also considered the emotional aspects of the situation. It wasn't just about regaining physical access. It was about reclaiming autonomy and dignity. Every step of the plan was designed to restore control, not to retaliate out of anger. This approach required careful thought and emotional discipline. The homeowner practiced staying calm, focusing on practical outcomes rather than letting frustration dictate decisions. They realized that maintaining composure would be essential in any interaction with the HOA, contractors, or neighbors. By staying grounded, the homeowner could ensure that every move was deliberate and strategic. Once the homeowner had a clear understanding of the gate's ownership and options for purchasing it, the next step was financial planning. Buying a community gate was no small expense, and the homeowner needed to approach it responsibly. They reviewed savings, consulted with financial advisors, and explored payment options. Every detail was considered, from upfront costs to potential maintenance responsibilities. The homeowner understood that this decision required commitment and long-term planning, but they were prepared to take it on. The financial aspect became part of the strategy, ensuring that the action would be sustainable and effective. The homeowner also began to consider the reactions of neighbors and the HOA. They knew that purchasing the gate would be a bold move, and it could provoke a strong response from Karen and the board. Anticipating these reactions was crucial. The homeowner thought through possible scenarios, preparing responses and strategies for each. They imagined conversations, potential objections, and ways to address them calmly and logically. This preparation was not about confrontation, but about ensuring that the homeowner's actions were legally sound and strategically advantageous. Every possible outcome was considered, reducing the risk of surprises and giving the homeowner confidence in the plan. Meanwhile, the homeowner continued to observe the gate and the surrounding community. Patterns of daily traffic, the timing of security checks, and the behavior of other residents all provided valuable insights. Each observation was noted, adding to the growing body of knowledge that would support the homeowner's next steps. The locked gate, once a source of frustration, had become a focus point for strategy and learning. The homeowner's mindset had shifted from helplessness to proactive problem-solving. They were no longer waiting for the HOA to act. They were preparing to take action themselves. The homeowner also considered the broader impact on the community. Purchasing the gate would not only restore access, but also send a clear message about fairness and autonomy. It was an opportunity to demonstrate that residents could stand up against unreasonable control, not out of rebellion, but out of a desire for justice and respect. The homeowner thought about how neighbors might respond, some with support and others with surprise or skepticism. By approaching the action carefully and responsibly, the homeowner aimed to set a positive example, showing that strategy and knowledge could overcome intimidation. As the plan developed, the homeowner began making preliminary contacts with the gate company. They asked detailed questions about the purchase process, transfer of ownership, and any legal requirements. Each conversation built confidence and clarified the steps that needed to be taken. The homeowner remained polite and professional, understanding that demeanor and tone could influence outcomes. By approaching the company with clear questions and a calm attitude, the homeowner gained respect and cooperation, laying the groundwork for a smooth transaction. Every piece of information brought them closer to the goal of taking control of the gate. The homeowner also worked on communication strategies for the HOA. They anticipated that Karen would try to interfere or challenge the purchase, and they prepared responses that were factual, respectful, and legally grounded. The goal was to minimize conflict while asserting rights. The homeowner's research included understanding the limits of the HOA's authority and how to respond to potential objections. By combining legal knowledge with strategic planning, the homeowner ensured that every interaction with the HOA would strengthen their position rather than weaken it. Preparation became a form of power, turning anxiety into proactive action. In addition to technical and legal preparation, the homeowner focused on personal resilience. They practiced patience, managed stress, and maintained focus on long-term goals. The process was mentally and emotionally demanding, but it also revealed inner strength. The homeowner discovered an ability to plan meticulously, stay calm under pressure, and make thoughtful decisions. Each small step, from researching ownership to contacting the gate company, reinforced confidence and determination. The journey was challenging, but it was also transformative, teaching the homeowner lessons about strategy, perseverance, and self-reliance. As the weeks progressed, the homeowner began to visualize the final outcome. They imagined the gate under their control, the freedom to enter and leave their home without fear or restriction. This vision became a motivating force, guiding every action and decision. The homeowner saw that the locked gate once a source of frustration and helplessness, could become a symbol of empowerment and resilience. It was no longer just about access. It was about standing up for fairness, asserting autonomy, and demonstrating that careful planning and knowledge could overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Finally, after months of observation, research, planning, and preparation, the homeowner felt ready to take the next step. They had a clear strategy, the necessary financial planning, and the knowledge to navigate potential challenges. The locked gate was no longer an obstacle but a target for action, a challenge that could be met with intelligence and determination. The homeowner understood that the journey ahead required courage, patience, and precision, but for the first time they felt fully prepared. The frustration and helplessness of the past months had been transformed into focus and resolve. They were ready to act, ready to reclaim control, and ready to turn the locked gate from a symbol of oppression into a symbol of triumph. After months of careful planning and preparation, the homeowner finally felt ready to take action. Every detail had been considered, from the ownership of the gate to the potential reactions from the HOA. The locked gate, once a source of daily frustration, had become a clear target, something that could be transformed from a symbol of oppression into a symbol of empowerment. The homeowner had a plan that was legal, strategic, and carefully thought out, and now it was time to put it into motion. The first step was to contact the gate company formally. The homeowner drafted emails and made calls, explaining their intention to purchase the gate and asking for all necessary documentation. Every interaction was professional, clear, and polite, showing that the homeowner was serious and responsible. They were careful not to express anger or frustration, knowing that maintaining calm and professionalism would help the process go smoothly. The company responded positively, acknowledging that the purchase was possible and providing the necessary steps and requirements. This progress was encouraging, and the homeowner felt a surge of determination and hope. While dealing with the gate company, the homeowner also prepared for the HOA's reaction. Karen and the board had become accustomed to having absolute control, and the homeowner anticipated resistance or attempts to block the purchase. Every potential scenario was considered, from objections based on technicalities to threats of fines or legal action. The homeowner prepared responses, carefully worded and supported by facts, property records, and legal information. They knew that being ready with knowledge and strategy would prevent the HOA from using fear or intimidation to regain control. This preparation required focus, patience, and attention to detail, but the homeowner understood that it was essential for success. As the purchase process moved forward, the homeowner also focused on the practical aspects. They arranged finances, ensuring that payment could be made promptly and efficiently. They coordinated with the gate company on logistics, maintenance responsibilities, and legal transfer of ownership. Every step was documented and recorded, creating a clear trail of evidence in case any disputes arose. The homeowner's attention to detail reflected their seriousness and determination. The locked gate, once a source of stress, had now become a carefully planned project, with every action moving closer to a final victory. Meanwhile, the homeowner continued to observe the community. Patterns of HOA meetings, security schedules, and neighbor interactions were noted and analyzed. This information helped anticipate potential issues and prepared the homeowner to respond calmly and effectively. Each observation added to the growing confidence and sense of control. The homeowner realized that the locked gate had inadvertently taught them valuable skills: patience, strategic thinking, and careful observation. What had once felt like an impossible situation was now an opportunity for empowerment and growth. The emotional journey was equally important. The homeowner had spent months navigating stress, frustration, and uncertainty. These emotions could have overwhelmed anyone, but instead they became a source of motivation. Every day that the gate remained locked reminded the homeowner why this effort mattered. It wasn't just about access. It was about dignity, fairness, and taking control of one's own life. The homeowner practiced maintaining calm under pressure, responding thoughtfully rather than emotionally, and staying focused on long-term goals. This emotional resilience became a key part of the overall strategy. As the purchase progressed, the homeowner also considered the broader impact on the community. Neighbors had observed the struggle, and some quietly offered support or shared their own experiences. The homeowner realized that reclaiming the gate could inspire others, showing that standing up against unfair control was possible without conflict or aggression. Every conversation, every shared piece of information, became part of a larger effort to demonstrate fairness, courage, and strategic thinking. The homeowner understood that this was not just a personal victory, but a lesson for the community on standing up for what is right. The day of the official transfer arrived, and the homeowner felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. All the preparations, observations, and planning had led to this moment. With the necessary payments made and documents signed, the ownership of the gate officially transferred. For the first time in months, the homeowner felt a sense of relief and empowerment. The locked gate, which had symbolized helplessness and frustration, was now under their control. The feeling of triumph was profound, a reward for months of careful planning, resilience, and determination. Once the gate was officially theirs, the homeowner took steps to ensure that everything was functional and secure. They coordinated with the company for maintenance, checked the operation of the gate, and verified that access was fully restored. Each detail was carefully reviewed to prevent future issues. The homeowner's careful preparation paid off, as every step proceeded smoothly and without unexpected complications. This attention to detail reflected not only their strategic thinking, but also their commitment to ensuring that the victory would be lasting. Karen and the HOA were stunned by the development. They had grown accustomed to using the gate as a tool of control, and now they no longer had authority over it. The homeowner observed Karen's reaction quietly, noting surprise, frustration, and even attempts to negotiate or influence the situation. But the homeowner remained calm and professional, responding with facts and documentation when necessary. The months of preparation and strategy ensured that there was no room for intimidation or manipulation. The balance of power had shifted, and the homeowner now held the upper hand. The neighborhood reacted as well. Some residents expressed surprise, others admiration, and a few had questions about the process. The homeowner used these interactions to explain the importance of knowledge, preparation, and standing up for one's rights without causing conflict. It became clear that the actions were not just about personal gain, but about demonstrating fairness and empowerment. The homeowner's approach inspired others to think about how they could protect themselves and their interests in a community governed by strict rules. The victory was becoming a lesson for the entire neighborhood. Even after gaining control of the gate, the homeowner continued to monitor and maintain it carefully. They ensured that security measures were in place, that access was functional, and that all neighbors were informed about proper use. The homeowner remained vigilant, understanding that ongoing management was necessary to prevent future disputes. This continued attention reinforced the sense of responsibility and empowerment. The gate was no longer a source of frustration. It was a tool of freedom, managed thoughtfully and strategically. The homeowner also reflected on the journey. Months of stress, planning, observation, and strategy had led to a meaningful and lasting victory. The locked gate, once a symbol of fear and helplessness, had become a representation of resilience, intelligence, and perseverance. The homeowner realized that the situation had not only restored access, but had also strengthened skills and confidence that would be valuable in many areas of life. The experience had transformed them, teaching lessons about patience, preparation, and standing up for fairness in a calm and strategic manner. Neighbors gradually adjusted to the new reality. Karen and the HOA no longer held the same level of control, and the homeowner's careful approach had set a precedent for thoughtful, respectful action. The community began to see that rules could be respected, while still maintaining autonomy and dignity. The homeowner's experience became a quiet lesson for the neighborhood, showing that strategic action, knowledge, and persistence could overcome unfair control without causing unnecessary conflict. The victory was lasting and meaningful, a testament to careful planning and resilience. With the gate under control, the homeowner could finally enjoy the freedom that had been missing for months. Simple routines like entering the community, taking out the trash, or checking the mailbox no longer caused stress or frustration. The sense of relief and empowerment was profound, a validation of months of hard work, careful observation, and strategic thinking. The homeowner felt proud, not only for regaining control of the gate, but for having done so in a way that was responsible, fair, and inspiring to others. The journey was far from easy. It required emotional strength, careful planning, legal understanding, and strategic execution. But the homeowner had demonstrated that even seemingly insurmountable obstacles could be overcome with patience, knowledge, and determination. The locked gate, once a symbol of control and intimidation, had been transformed into a symbol of empowerment and self-reliance. The experience had strengthened the homeowner in many ways, teaching valuable lessons about resilience, strategy, and the importance of standing up for fairness. It was a victory that went beyond access to a gate. It was a triumph of preparation, courage, and thoughtful action.